if you have a negative jobs number, jobs over inflation. So again, I think CPI, specifically core, is not a concern. Told you it was coming, shelter cost, and the job market is much, much worse. So that's why I personally flipped from no cuts for the year to, boy, the Fed's behind, the Fed's late, cut 50. Boy, oh boy, what the heck is going on in the economy, the job market, inflation? We're going to look at the comments, go a little bit deeper. I really appreciate this opportunity to answer questions in detail. Mark, thank you for doing this each and every week. What do you got this week?
Yeah, I think everyone is just very confused out there. Even your daily financial news this morning, there was some big information, but this one was from Paul Devos. This was a while back, though. It says, pretty wild that core CPI goes up and some more inflation. And the July 30th meeting had 11 voters, 2 dissented, and only 2 voted for a rate cut of 25 basis points. That is 7 voted against a rate cut, 7-2. So with a hotter core CPI, somehow that means a rate cut. I'm a bit confused here.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons to be confused. And I like that you picked this one to start with, because I want to kind of give you my bias first. So I'm the guy that came in December of 2024 and said no cuts all year. Then we had this disastrous jobs report, and I flipped immediately because I dug into the numbers, and we'll talk about it all right here. But I'm still calling for a 50 basis point cut, even after the horrible, just disastrous PPI reading this morning, which I'm sure is something we'll talk about next week. But the reason, so we'll do inflation first. This was Paul's question. So yes, core CPI went up, and I think it went up to 3.1%. There's 2 factors. One, you have to ask yourself why. And something I tried to do on my channel for 6 months was tell people that the July and August readings of CPI would be bad, right? Because when you understand the math, I looked forward for 6 months and I said, even if CPI behavior is normal, it is going to appear like it's going higher. It's something called the base effect. And it did. And most people don't have the receipts to tell you it was coming. So first thing about core CPI, 3.1%, is it's not as bad because, again, I told you it was coming, right? If you know it's coming, right? If you know the boogeyman's out there, you're not as scared. And the next thing I'll tell you is the next 4 months of CPI will appear to be better for the same exact reason. A year ago, we had a negative 0.1 and a 0, which are very tough compares in a world where CPI is normally 0.2. Even if CPI went up just 0.2, you would get a rise because 0.2 is bigger than negative 0.1 and 0. So that's what happened. So I'm not concerned about 3.1 because I told you it was coming. I told you. Second, and I want to give credit where credit is due. Daniel DiMartino Booth actually did the math on this. Of the increase in core, which I told you was coming, 54% of it was shelter. And if you've been listening to my channel for any length of time, you know that the shelter calculation in CPI is a disaster, right? There is no chance in hell that rent inflation is 6%. It is probably 0, if not negative. So more than half of the increase is frankly bogus. So in my opinion, there's lots of reasons not to be concerned about CPI, core inflation, 3.1. Told you it was coming. It's going to get better. Shelter inflation's 50%. Now to the other side. Why did I really change? Because if that's all that happened, I would have still been marked in the 0 cut camp, right? Because again, even if CPI is 2.8, it's still not 2%. What changed is when I dug into the disastrous job market. And, not to go too long-winded here, but what I did is I kind of pulled apart the unemployment rate, which again is only 4.2%. But again, it's a government number that's crap. I did something and I found the participation rate. I don't remember it was April or May. It may have been April. But I assume the participation rate stayed flat. The unemployment rate today is not 4.2. It's not 4.4. It's not 4.6. It's not 4.8. It's 4.9. And I believe, if the unemployment rate was really 4.9%, the Fed would be cutting. Why? Because the Fed told us their expectation for the year is 4.4. I think the job market is much worse than the Fed is letting on. We saw 250,000 jobs disappear. I think there's a very good chance that the disaster from the last report of 75,000 is revised and potentially negative next month. And at that point, if you have a negative jobs number, jobs over inflation. So again, I think CPI, specifically core, is not a concern. Told you it was coming. Shelter cost. And the job market is much, much worse. So that's why I personally flipped from no cuts for the year to, boy, the Fed's behind, the Fed's late, cut 50. So hopefully that helps.
No, that was a perfect lead in for this. So someone actually commented jobs over inflation.
Yes.
And they said we've always have at least 2% inflation every year, sometimes more, sometimes less. Over the entire human existence, inflation has been consistently rising year over year. Without inflation, we would have no growth in our economy. Inflation is not really a problem. It's a key part of the economy. People losing jobs is the big problem.
Amen to a lot of that. Again, I've said, and I have a shirt, inflation's a feature, not a bug. If you understand the game, you actually invest in letting inflation at your back, right? Get fixed rate 30-year debt, cheap as possible, let inflation be your friend. It's just one of the ways to get rich. And yeah, we've had decades where inflation's, 1%. We've had decades where it's 3%, generally speaking, around 2%. But yeah, this is jobs over inflation. And again, the Fed talks cute and dual mandate and all that nonsense. No. If the Fed really admitted the unemployment rate was 4.9% today, they would cut today.
So on that point, though, this is a little bit off topic, but Donato Callahan, he's also in the school community, but he has a saying that inflation is a requirement for Americans' retirement. Do you?
Yeah, I think inflation's a feature, not a bug. I think the entire fiat currency, which is our worldwide currency, not only U.S., relies on just a little bit of inflation. Now, we don't want inflation at 9%, but the system relies on about 2% inflation. It's built into the system, and you can rage against the machine, but that's kind of foolish, right? Don't hate the player, hate the game. Right? The game's inflation is part of the system. Inflation's a feature, not a bug. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now, Javier Galvan, talking on inflation. I think the biggest thing on this confusion and everything too is the data. So this person says shadow stats, please. Talk about the fact that the way we calculate inflation has been changed from the way it was calculated the 80s and the 90s.
So lots of people throw this out there, and it's absolutely true. If you look at the basket of goods for CPI in 1980 versus the basket of goods today, it's vastly different. And a lot of people point at that and say, hey, go back to the 1980s and use that basket and tell me what inflation is. And frankly, I understand the logic. I understand why non-economists would kind of say that. But in reality, as somebody who lived in the 80s and obviously still lives today, our behavior is different. The stuff that I'm buying today, a lot of it didn't exist in 1980. We didn't have cell phones in 1980. So while it's cute and accurate to kind of point at the 1980 basket, it's not practical, right? We do buy different things. We didn't have Netflix. We didn't have Wi-Fi. We didn't have these things. Now, you can obviously argue, is the basket today representative? And that's a different conversation, right? Pointing out that the two baskets are different I don't really play that because they should be different. It's been 50 years ago. Now, if you want to have a conversation that the basket today is not allocated appropriately, that's a different conversation and probably one I would support. Because I think a basket, because I think what we're suffering through is a K-shaped economy. We've been in this for 3 or 4 years, where the have and the have-nots. I think if the basket is for the haves, it's a different kind of inflation picture, and if it's for the have-nots, it's a different kind of inflation picture. So I think we're seeing a bifurcated economy. But I'm not really in the camp of let's go back to how we calculated in 1980 because I'm not buying the same shit that I did in 1980.
All right, so this one is like you're talking jobs over inflation. Justin W7698 says, so people getting laid off will not cause a recession. And your response was 220K people go on in unemployment a week for years and no recession.
Yeah, there's just some people that want to rage against the machine, and they don't understand that even in booming economies, we have layoffs every week. I mean, again, where this person should have gone was tenure. Because again, I've been trying to help people understand that I think this economic cycle is going to be very different than the last couple. And that's why a lot of these YouTube doomers don't get it. Is they all have PTSD that this has to be the great financial crisis. And it's not going to be. It's going to be something different. It's much more akin to the 1978 to 1982. We had a double dip recession, which was nasty. I lived through it as a kid. I remember it was some of the worst times. And I think that's what's coming. And what that really means is when you get laid off, it's going to really suck because the tenure, the length of time on unemployment is going to be much longer than we're used to. And that's where this person should have gone. So no, absolutely not. Just because we have 220, I think today, matter of fact, we had 225,000 people new on the list and no recession. So yeah, this cute little comment is just factually stupid, frankly.
Kind of on to that point, there's people out there that are commenting, I don't believe recessions are actually possible anymore.
Yeah, I saw that a couple of times and I totally disagree. We have certainly found ways to mitigate. We have certainly found ways to extend. But no, I'm not in a camp that, via central planning, we have solved recessions forever. Not at all. I'm not in that camp at all. I believe recessions are natural. We may have gotten better at mitigating the amplitude, but I'm not in that camp at all. In fact, if you put a gun to my head, I might tell you we're in a recession right now, and it'll just be called in a year.
All right, and you kind of mentioned the early 80s and whatnot, but this person says the median household income necessary to purchase the median price home for sale in the US, 124K, is now 57% higher than the current median household income, 79K. This is the most unaffordable housing market in history. And you said not true. 1981 is still the worst affordability in 55 years.
Yeah, I don't know. This again is a very common Reventure Consulting quote where he just takes income and price and creates a ratio. First and foremost, that's not how housing is priced. It's price, income, and interest rate. And and if you don't throw an interest rate, you're just wrong. And again, I've done research all the way back to 1970. I give it away for free. If you really truly believe that comment, go to onerentalatatime.com, download the spreadsheet. And while today is bad, it's actually now the third worst year, which is really funny because last year was number 2. This is now number 3. What does that mean? Well, it means wages are going up. It means rates are coming down. It means prices are flat. So this year is actually better than last year, which really blows people's mind. But 1981 is still the most unaffordable year. It's not even close. 1981 was the worst.
All right, so this person has a question or maybe a recommendation for an upcoming video, and I don't know if you have it in the plans, but they said not that you've not done it, but could you do an episode or few on how the stagflation scenario might affect real estate investing for tenant selection or lease renewals? I get the impression that there are many ramifications how stagflation can affect us. Both those two aspects intrigue me as someone who self-manages his small portfolio. Thanks in advance.
Yeah, this is a good one you picked up on, and I've thought about it. And stagflation for a property owner it's bad. Thankfully, hopefully it's only short term, but basically what you're seeing in a stagflation environment is higher input costs, meaning taxes, insurance, services, utilities, all of that stuff. But you're going to have a soft job market. And, I don't know that rents go down because also people I think people will stay longer. But yeah, I think in a stagflationary environment, you're very likely to see costs exceed the rise in costs exceed the rise in rents. So it's net negative to the owner. That is certainly a possibility. Although I think tenure will be longer. So net, if turnover is lower, net, you might be in a better position because turnovers really kills landlords. But yeah, I think in a stagflationary environment, the outcome is going to be tenure increases because nobody wants to move. They're like, hey, I don't want to do that, right? Moving's expensive. But we are going to see input costs rise. So it's going to be something landlords have to focus on.
All right, and I love all the new guests that you're bringing on your channel, the new direction, new faces, and I noticed you're bringing on more Bitcoin space and
Yep.
different asset classes. But this one individual comments on my real estate channels are talking about an infinite money loop in Bitcoin. These are local top signals for me, to kind of stop.
So they like it or they don't like it?
I think they're kind of saying that it's the asset class is getting too frothy.
Toppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, one of the things that's, I mean, it may not be obvious on my channel, but I'm always interested in having conversations, especially about stuff I know nothing about. So yeah, I'm happy to have conversations, whether it's Bitcoin, we've had a couple of those recently, or other assets. I'm just inquisitive. I just like asking questions. So, yeah, could it be a sign of a top? Of course. Right. I don't know. It's not my thing, but I'm willing to ask some questions. So yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of want this one was a little bit different one though. So this one was kind of on X you had. It was a little bit of a I don't know if because you don't go back and forth a lot on your comments. But this one, the triple net investor posted, "There's no way in hell the Fed should consider cutting rates. Stock market's near all-time high, home prices all-time high, rents near all-time high." And you said thoughts, and then someone commented back, "The wealth coach says he's right. Only people wanting rate cuts are wealthy who benefit from appreciation, delusional home buyers thinking this will help affordability." And your pushback was, "So it won't help businesses invest. It won't spark borrowing to invest."
Yeah. So again, I think this is where we have to understand the underworkings of the economy and why I changed my opinion. I think labor, and by labor meaning businesses, are hurting. And I think what we have seen from consumers is the uncertainty is starting to clear. I think somebody said earlier the fog is starting to clear, but I do not believe that's true for businesses. I believe small and medium-sized businesses specifically are in conservation mode, right? I think they are most directly hurt by higher rates. So again, if my prediction, and again, it's an if my prediction that the labor market is deteriorating, you either let it happen or you try to step in and lower rates, which could dent or mute the weakening labor market. So, I mean, the first part of that comment is absolutely, again, it's really funny because I was in that camp. If you fast forward to Thursday before the horrible jobs number, I agree 1,000%. How the hell can we cut with all-time high stocks, all-time high crypto, all-time? I'm like, cutting now is stupid. But I fundamentally believed it was a drastic change, and we have a new red alert. And I think the job market, the business market is weak. And if we don't do something very soon, it will be horrible. So that's what I think.
Right. Maybe we'll wrap things up. Maybe these last two.
Okay.
Do you think this one is probably the solution for everything? So Robert Jones comments, "Cheap money got us into our current conundrum, and now cheap money is going to bail us out."
No, I don't think so. I think there were so many bad deals. And it's funny. I just heard yesterday there's a very, very well-known syndicator who is a huge real estate social media person who's on the cusp of losing 3 properties in Houston, Texas. And those deals can't be saved because rates get a little cheaper. I think what has to happen is the easy money bad deals need to be cleaned up. And I think it's starting. I was just on with Jonathan Twomley, and he had a hard money lender call all his loans, not because they're all bad, but they just want to get liquid. So no, I think there's a lot of cleansing, and this is the process. This is capitalism. When you do dumb shit, you're supposed to lose, right? When you FOMO into something, you're supposed to lose. And I think we're on the cusp of a very deep cleansing process. And I look forward to picking up the pieces just like last time.
This one, I'm just curious as to what the response was, and maybe I don't know if Grok replied to you, but so on
Ah,
X, yeah, Mary Tiles Texas says, "Hey, at Grok, based on my tweets and public statements, where do I fall politically on a scale from 1 to 100? 1 is far left, 100 is far right." And you had the exact same thing. Hey,
yeah, I was
Grok, do
interested.
this for me.
Yeah,
So
it never replied to me. I don't know
ah,
if I'm doing it right or wrong. But yeah, it never replied to me. I would guess, and it was going to be interesting. So I obviously lean right. Um, and I would have thought I would be somewhere in the 70s, just my guess, right? Could be as high as the 80s. But yeah, I certainly lean right, but I had no idea because my tweets maybe aren't, there's not a lot of politics in them. I don't think it's more money and investing, but yeah, I was curious and Grok disappointed me, man. Didn't reply.
yeah. All right. Well, yeah, this was a kind of a short one. I know we're wrapping things up. School community's growing. There's a live session in school with Thatch Gwynn coming up. So we're going to cut this
Yeah.
one a little short. So, how's the event going, the planning and whatnot?
Yeah, the plan is good. Again, it's, you're still juggling schedules, getting confirmation. There's still, I think there's 3 speakers who have given me soft yeses, but that's not a commitment. So, I'll be juggling this for at least the next 90 days. I feel really good about the headliners. I've locked them in. Jason Hartman, Pace Morby, they're in. So I feel good about that. I can mess with the others. I think we sold 59 tickets as of yet. I'm trying to get to 100 in August just to feel better about the 80 grand I need to send out in the next 80 days. But yeah, I feel great about it. Again, I'm still not sure we'll do a number 4 or we'll wait for 100,000, but it's a little bit more fun than the last time we had this conversation. The pieces are starting to come together. So.
Well, hopefully this will help you even push you more for a year 4. But I just want to tell you what kind of community you have. So I think last recording I mentioned that I was going to give away a VIP ticket when I hit 1,000 subscribers. So I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So Monday, yeah, we're gonna do a live streaming giveaway, but also your Monday accountability group. They don't want me to name them, but your Monday accountability group is also going to be donating a general admission ticket. So we're not only will be giving away a VIP
Wow.
ticket, we're going to be giving away a general admission ticket. I'm also going to give away some of Frank's ORaaT shirts that he's raising money, and a couple of Dion's books. So everyone Monday, 11 a.m. I'll be live streaming, and we'll see who wins these prizes.
That's yeah, the ORaaT community is special. There's no doubt. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff that could make year 4 very possible. Actually, you're absolutely right. It's so awesome, our community, and it's growing. It's 450 plus now. I love the fact we're welcoming new members. We got 8 accountability calls 7 days a week now. Find the one that works for you, and free stuff. I actually look forward to 500. I didn't know that we would ever get there, but I said if I got to 500, I would put my Get Your Money Right course in school for free. So that's $100 course. I sell, I don't know, 10 to 15,000 bucks of that a year, and I'll just put it in the school for free as a thank you. So another 41 people, I think, or 42.
We're close.
We'll add more goodies for you.
Sounds good. I can't wait.
All right, family. Take care. Thank you.